Hello guys, welcome to another mixing tutorial video. Today let's take a look at my mix of my cover of Who I Am, the new banger by Wage War. Damn, I just love Wage War so much. I hope you guys love Wage War as much as I do. Let's get over these tones, shall we? Let's start on my master bus, so the bus where everything in the mix goes through. The mix is going through a compressor, as usual, but today we're compressing a bit more than usual. So going anywhere from -2 to -3 dB, so 3 decibels of gain reduction at max. I wanted more gain reduction in this song so that I could get the compressor to work a bit more, to make it more energetic. Since we don't have many guitar parts layered, it's a simple song. As much energy as we can get through the compressor, the better. I also chose the iron transformer option today because this gives it a nice bump in the lower mids, the 150 to 250 area that I felt was lacking in my guitar tone, so I added it to the entire mix instead of just the guitar tone. My limiter as usual is Ozone 8. Let's see how much he's working today. Not that much, so just hitting on kicks and snares, anywhere between -3 and -5 dB on a kick and snare hit. So going heavier on the compression today instead of the limiting. I think I liked the result. What ended up happening is that the drums sound a bit more open and you can hear the peaks of the kick and snare better instead of squashing them together into a very powerful sausage, you could call it. It's a cool result. When you're mastering, experiment with how much of the loudness comes from compression and how much of the loudness comes from limiting, because you can get pretty different results. Let's go over this drum tone. This is a very unique drum tone because its components are the Invasion kit. Basically the entirety of the kit is Invasion, except that the shells have a really important booster, let's say. They have one-shot samples boosting the shells. So this is what Invasion sounds like alone in this mix setting. Look at these shells. They sound thin and pokey because my purpose was making the attack sound nice and realistic from these multi-sample drum layers, but make their low end and power come from one-shot samples that sound like this soloed. Please. So that's interesting. I am layering the Invasion with one-shot samples. If I mute the kick one, oops. Mute the snare one. It's a very drastic difference, and it's a different way to build a drum sound. So instead of going all in on one sampler, you can choose one sampler and try to augment it with different samples. So samples on samples. Hell yeah. What can go wrong? One thing that becomes way easier when you do this is mixing, because these one-shot samples are pretty much mix ready. It sounds kind of mechanical, but that's a mix ready kick, if you ask me. So here in my mixing setup, you are able to see the drum bus, the invasion kick, the one-shot kick, the invasion snare, the one-shot snare, the toms, the one-shot toms, and then everything that's room and cymbals is invasion. So let's go over it. This is the drum bus where the entirety of the drum sound is going through. So all of the invasion and all of the one-shots, they're all going through this SSL channel strip. For the saturation that it incurs on the sound, I'll do a before and after so I can explain what the saturation is doing that I like. It's basically making everything louder in a way that's very pleasant and boosts the low end in a very nice way, and gives some distortion. That's what saturation does, and that's what I like most about this plugin. It's not even the EQ or the compressor. We're going through that, then we're going through a very drastic Pultec EQ that's boosting low end and boosting a lot of high end too. So this is where I get the low end power and the cymbal and shell brightness. The before and after on this can be shocking. This is a very fast way to change your drum sound, is by EQing the entire drum bus. So give it a go. This clipper here is taking off the peaks of the snare because the snare was a bit too pokey. It's very visual. You'll be able to see it here. The reason it's doing that, it's so that the drum compressor that comes next doesn't have to work as hard. So I'm splitting the load between two different compressors, being that one is a hard clipper. And this compressor, what he's doing is he is turning down the kick and the snare in a way that makes them gel together better with the cymbals and the rest of the drum kit. This EQ is just removing the sub low end from the kick beneath 35 Hz because the one-shot sample is very, very subby. Let's see what the invasion kick sounded like before and after the plugins. Damn. Not much, just compression for attack, clipping for dynamic consistency and distortion, and this little EQ is taking down some mid-range at 300 Hz and boosting the high end to get the click. Let's add the one-shot sample. The one-shot sample has all our room and low end. I liked the airiness of the room sample, so I boosted it here too at 80k Hz on the one-shot sample. And that's the good thing about blending with one-shots, is that you don't need a lot of plugins and you already have a good sound. Like, that's a cool kick sound. The snare has only one plugin, so the invasion snare is clipped. No more plugins, just blended with the one shot. And that's the snare sound. That's how cool one-shot samples can be. You just need to add them to your main sound and you'll often be mix ready. In case you are wondering, these are the Andrew Wade drum shot one-shots. So they're called drum shots. Yeah, that's what Drumforge calls their one-shot packs. And these are signature Andrew Wade. He's a kick-ass producer who actually mixed the previous Wage War albums. So that's why I thought these samples would be a good fit. They sound pretty stupid by themselves because they're very mechanical by their one-shot nature. But if you blend them with multi-sample drums, like the Invasion, that sound very natural, you can get great results. As for the Invasion toms, they're just going through the same compression for a nice attack and getting some mid-range removed. There aren't many toms in this song. I'm gonna have to take this hit. Getting this shit removed sounds like ass. And compressing for a bit of attack. Blend the one shot in, and it just adds some nice boominess. The toms could go pretty well if they were the Invasion only, but I decided to use the rest of the one shot too on the toms to boost them as well and make them fit. Let's go over everything else, so cymbals and rooms. I call my cymbal and room bus the brass bus because it has cymbals and they're all made of brass. So everything that's not a direct mic goes through here. Again, I'm not using the SSL for saturation this time. I'm using for its EQ. The most important EQ move here is getting rid of some 4K that sounds pretty harsh on cymbals. So this shh frequency you just heard, I want to tame it. And then with the EQ, I'm going hard on 3K, which is a permanent ring in one of these cymbals. I think it's the right crash here on the chorus. See that? It's pretty bad. Let's get rid of it. As for my cymbal bus, where the hi-hat direct mic and overhead are going, I have an aggressive high-pass filter going in. This is to get the kick and snare out of these mics because I want to hear mostly cymbals. As soon as I turn it on, kick and snare are dead. And I am soothing the 3.2K region, which sounds pretty harsh too. Much of cymbal mixing is finding these spots between 2K and 5K where the cymbals are harsh and annoying and getting rid of them. As for my rooms, I got the room close and the room far together into one channel, and all I did was compress them heavily. What this is doing is it's ducking hard on every snare hit so that the snare hit can become nice and loud, because if I turn it off, all you hear is a snare peak. But if I turn it on, what you hear is the snare smashing into the compressor and becoming super hyped. So this is off. Sounds like a normal snare hit, and this is on. This helps the main snare in one shot become lengthier. And that's how quickly you can get a drum mix going if you blend it with one-shot samples. So that's the lesson for the drums today. It's not the most realistic and natural sound out there, but if you're going for a nice metal sound, there's a lot to be learned about how to blend your one-shot samples in with your main drum sound. Let's go over the bass tone. So this is low F, which I couldn't tune my bass to. So this is Eurobass again, our hero bass library. And this is what the DI coming out of Eurobass sounds like. We're going to get it to this. We're going to do that by splitting the bass into two tracks, duplicating the DI. One will become low end, Oops, what did I do wrong? This. I turned this track into only low end by using this Joel Wanasek bass compressor that has a really handy feature where it splits the bass into bottom end and top end. So I just grab the top end one and put it down, grab the bottom end one and put it at a nice level. You can easily do this by EQ, like I've explained before. This is how you do it. Filter the high end down, and here's the same result. I just use this one because I'm used to it, and it has a built-in compressor. As for the other DI track, we'll turn it into this. Our high-end distortion. And this high-end distortion is coming from the Will Putney amp simulator on the bass mid-range crush preset, which sounds like this. Pretty strong. And then I put it into the same bass compressor, turn down the bottom, and put the top at a nice level. Again, let me show you how you do this. Same result, just get rid of the low end, and that's your high-end distortion track. Both together will sound like this. And now in the bus, where we sum them together, is where the magic will happen. To make them sound like one cohesive bass unit instead of two. Some EQ to correct some annoying frequencies on the high-end track, mainly this whistle, which is very present in the Ampeg cab that the plugin is simulating, and some annoying mid-range. Some honky shit. This SSL EQ is doing two different things. It's filtering, so getting rid of sub-low end beneath 45 Hertz and extra high end over 9K Hertz. And it's giving us some strategic low end boosts. One at 200, because this bass is so low that the 200 region is filled with harmonics that will let you hear the low F better. I'm gonna boost this a lot so you see what I mean. Let's go to a part where it's all low F. Oh, hi, Alex is in the emails again. Hello, dude, you managed to to make it into another mix tutorial. You can't see it, but like behind the camera now is an email from him. That's awesome. Let's go to a part that's all low Fs. Is there one? Oh, here. Watch me boost 200 and see how it doesn't sound like 200, but like the super low frequencies. Can you see what this is doing? If you're handling very, very low tune bass, experiment not with boosting the 60s and the 80s, which is where you'd like your kick to be. Try boosting the 180, the 200 to see if there are any harmonics in that region that will help you perceive the super low octave. So this is a cool trick. After that, we're just limiting the bass into super dynamic consistency. This limiter turns up the parts that are lower in level and turns down the parts that are higher in level so that you get a nice consistent slab brick of bass that you can then choose a level for very comfortably without it poking out of the mix. Let's go over the guitar tone. A very simple guitar tone. It's your boy STL Tonality Will Putney plugin, basically stuck on the AMP2 simulation. I think this is like all stock. This plugin is surreal. I'm just doing some a big EQ move to make it match the Wage War one better, which is boosting of 1.2K, which is a frequency that was very prominent in the Wage War guitar tone and that this preset was lacking. After I boosted it, the tone was much closer. Listen to what this frequency sounds like and how it really changes the tone. Without it, it's a scooped metal tone. With it, it sounds like a gnarly, mid-rangey, radio-ready rock guitar tone. This mid-range at between 1K and 2K is the night and day part of guitar tone. So be sure to experiment with it. I boosted like 4 decibels. It's a pretty important before and after. I also filtered low end up to 80 Hertz and high end down to 9K Hertz. After that, just some compression on the guitars, mainly to catch the palm muted parts. Palm muted parts tend to boost your guitars in level and make them poke out of the mix in a bassy and bad way. So grab any compressor you have. This is one that's specially made for guitars, but it doesn't have to be. And try to get it to a level where it just catches the palm mutes. Can be the difference between stupid woofy palm mutes and nice genty ones. The lo-fi guitar is exactly the same thing, but with the SSL telephone trick, which I have taught you. This is the same tone as the rhythm, basically. But as soon as you grab an SSL style plugin or any other EQ plugin and you jack up the filters, jack the low end filter up to get rid of as much low end, and jack the high end filter down to get rid of as much high end, and you get this. It's a pretty cool effect. Watch me do it with the Reaper stock EQ. There you go, telephone guitar. Pretty cool, right? That's how you do the lo-fi effect. Let's go over the chorus lead. So the same tone as the same amp actually as the rhythm tone, but I changed the cabinet. Let's see what these sound like. Cabinet 2 is what I had for the rhythms, but Cabinet 4 is a nice mid-range that makes this good for a lead sound, in my opinion. Then I am filtering low end because it's a lead sound, not a rhythm sound, and filtering high end so that it's not pokey and annoying. So night and day difference there. It's not quite the telephone effect, but almost. And here, here is the reverb at 30% wetness, about 3 seconds of reverb, and a delay to make it bounce between the left and the right speaker. Didn't match it to the song, just had a random millisecond amount for the delay, and I think it sounds pretty good. Without delay and reverb. Boring. Very cool. As for the clean guitars at the end, they're the laziest thing I've ever done. Will Putney plugin, clean tone setting. That's literally it. It even has delay and reverb built in. No EQ. And that's this mix, guys. I hope you learned something. Oh, here's the usual suspect. You know what he's doing. Adding the explosion to the mix. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this mix tutorial. Learned something new about the drum sound, or about my bass sound, or about how the Will Putney plugin is sick. Sometimes I like to use cheaper amp simulators. Sometimes I like to use the dearest of them all. But anything works. You've seen me use free shit. You've seen me use paid shit. You know you can get your tones with any money you want to spend. That's always a thing I try to teach, is that you should work with what you have before you start buying stuff. You'll see a lot of my EQ moves are done with the stock Reaper EQ. The one-shot samples, I didn't have to get an external sampler to sample them. I just loaded up the wave files and put them on Reaper Samplomatic 5000, which is the Reaper stock sampler, which is perfect for the job. This clipper is free too. There's a lot of stuff that you don't need to go spend money on. So yeah, do the best with what you got. That's my motto for today. Hope you have a great day and you learned something. If you're a new patron, be sure to check out all previous mixing tutorials because your support covers access to all of them. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you around. Take care.